Adesso. Ok, io sto intorno allo 0, un po' più su, un po' più alto dello 0, adesso 0, adesso 0, adesso 0, ok?
Good morning. May I have your attention, please? We are going to start. Please have a seat. Ah, no. Good morning and welcome everybody. We have just listened to our national anthem and then we are ready to start with the opening remarks by Adolfo Urso, Minister of Enterprises and Made in Italy.
Presidente Gai per l'invito e saluto tutti voi in platea, scusandomi di non essere in presenza a causa di impegni istituzionali. La ministeriale dell'industria, che ha aperto la serie delle ministeriali che si svolgeranno nel nostro Paese nel corso di quest'anno, si è aperta in una formula inedita con una sessione congiunta G7-B7, cioè una sessione nella quale i rappresentanti delle associazioni di impresa dei grandi del mondo hanno potuto confrontarsi con i ministri del G7. Confronto molto proficuo perché ci ha permesso di evidenziare quali possono essere, quali debbano essere le priorità dei nostri paesi e del G7 a tutela dello sviluppo del settore dell'impresa, dell'industria e soprattutto su come gestire al meglio le complessità tecnologiche che dobbiamo affrontare, che abbiamo davanti a noi. E infatti la ministeriale era sul tema dell'industria, tecnologie e digitale. La cooperazione a cui siamo chiamati è molto ampia e deve avvenire su più piani tra l'industria dei paesi del G7 e anche dei paesi in via di sviluppo e tra settore privato e istituzioni. E pertanto anche eventi come quello che avete oggi realizzato rappresentano occasioni per approfondire il dialogo, coltivare le esigenze di condivisione, guardando soprattutto ai temi emersi durante quel confronto così significativo, prima tra i quali la sicurezza e la resilienza delle reti e delle catene di valore, attraverso anche l'integrazione nei processi produttivi dell'intelligenza artificiale e delle altre tecnologie emergenti come il quantum, su cui proprio l'Italia, proprio le nostre imprese, possono svolgere un ruolo da leader. Sotto la guida della Presidenza italiana sarà elaborato in quest'anno un rapporto che raccoglierà e metterà a sistema le strategie politiche e industriali sull'intelligenza artificiale per il suo più cogente utilizzo da parte delle micro e delle piccole imprese. È stato inoltre costituito un gruppo di lavoro sui semiconduttori per passare dalla competizione alla cooperazione tra le imprese e tra i paesi del G7 su quello che è un settore strategico per tutti, centrale anche per l'Italia, che può diventare il paese più attrattivo o comunque tra i più attrattivi per l'insediamento delle imprese nella tecnologia del digitale, della microelettronica. Partendo da queste basi, nel corso di quella ministeriale, ma ovviamente nel corso dell'anno di presidenza italiana, intendiamo proseguire i lavori per raggiungere quegli obiettivi condivisi affinché poi i nostri leader nel vertice di giugno in Puglia potranno dare delle indicazioni ai nostri paesi e alla comunità occidentale e quindi successivamente nell'ultima ministeriale dell'industria che si terrà in ottobre saremo in condizioni di realizzare il rapporto sull'intelligenza artificiale e anche il progetto per l'hub sull'intelligenza artificiale per lo sviluppo sostenibile, che è tra gli obiettivi che ci siamo dati insieme agli altri grandi anche per coinvolgere l'Africa nel nostro processo di sviluppo. Per raggiungere questi obiettivi è necessaria la collaborazione, uno scambio continuo e proficuo, continuativo tra le imprese e le istituzioni. Lo è tanto più in Italia, laddove noi siamo consapevoli che la forza del sistema paese è proprio nella sua rappresentanza. Pertanto vi auguro buon lavoro, sicuro che dalle vostre discussioni emergeranno ulteriori riflessioni, indicazioni per realizzare i provvedimenti che saranno necessari al nostro Paese. Tra l'altro, tra poche settimane presenteremo in Consiglio dei Ministri la legge quadro sulle tecnologie abilitanti prevista nella manovra economica come collegato e quindi finanziata nella manovra economica, che dovrà consentirci di realizzare un sistema di trasmissione tra la ricerca e l'applicazione nell'impresa delle tecnologie abilitanti, intelligenza artificiale, meccanica quantistica, blockchain, metaverso, realtà virtuale, tutto quello che serve per rendere più competitivo il nostro sistema paese. Buon lavoro.
Thanks to the Minister for his message. A little reminder for people at the table, you have a translator if you want. So, we're living interesting times, aren't we? Indeed, we could say that we are living through the most economically and geopolitically transformative period in decades. In this scenario, we know that the world has always been full of dangerous actors and phenomena that, left unchecked, possess the desire and ability to make things worse. But this is also a time for hope. We are facing perils at the same time opportunities. So this is the time to choose to take on the challenges we face. Collaboration is the method that TECH7 proposes. TECH7 Association have delivered a joint declaration to the Italian government and the Italian presidency of G7. This document highlights their commitment to promote policies for a growth based on digital innovation. So G7 countries should work together, and we will see how this could happen, starting by focusing on the new emerging technologies to support social and economic prosperity. For example, we have two key topics: artificial intelligence and sustainability. TECH7 aims to promote investments and new policies for digital skills and education, cybersecurity, digital transformation, digital trade, and data flows. So we have many things to do. Let's start. We will have 2 roundtables to deepen our issues, but first, the opening remarks by Marco Gai, the president of Anitec-Assinform, our host. Thanks, Marco.
Thank you. Thank you. Grazie Mario. Buongiorno a tutti voi e ancora benvenuti. Ringrazio il governo italiano e le rappresentanze diplomatiche presenti per aver accolto il nostro invito a partecipare. Ringrazio i colleghi delle associazioni TECH7 per essere qui con noi e soprattutto coloro che hanno viaggiato oltreoceano per essere qui in presenza, a partire dai colleghi di IETA che si passano il testimone dopo il G7 2023 in Giappone. Grazie. Grazie agli ospiti per il tempo che ci dedicherete in questa mattinata, che spero che sarà di grande confronto, ma soprattutto dove delineeremo ancora meglio le linee guida poi da portare avanti. La nostra associazione, in occasione della presidenza italiana del G7, ha l'onore di ospitare questa conferenza per condividere con i governi dei nostri paesi e le proposte e le raccomandazioni dell'industria del digitale per sostenere la crescita, la competitività, la sostenibilità delle nostre economie. Permettetemi a margine un ringraziamento anche ai colleghi dell'Anitec-Assinform che sono qui oggi numerosi per condividere con noi questo momento. Sappiamo che il 2024 è un anno sarà un anno contrassegnato da forte instabilità per il quadro geopolitico internazionale. Si svolgeranno elezioni in 62 paesi con 4 miliardi di persone chiamate alle urne. Pensiamo all'Unione Europea e agli Stati Uniti. E purtroppo assistiamo ad alcuni conflitti in corso, la cui evoluzione preoccupa tutti noi certamente, a partire proprio da noi paesi dell'Unione Europea. La Presidenza italiana pertanto ha in agenda numerose priorità e ha assunto la guida del G7 in un momento tutt'altro che di pace e di tranquillità. Per questo crediamo che l'impulso dato dalla Presidenza alla discussione sui temi del digitale e dell'innovazione tecnologica sia particolarmente importante perché coglie la centralità delle nuove tecnologie nel costruire ponti, legami e rinsaldare le relazioni, ma anche nella costruzione delle aree afflitte dai conflitti. Tutti ingredienti di cui ora i nostri paesi hanno più che mai bisogno. Le nostre associazioni, che ancora ringrazio, hanno condiviso un approccio collaborativo di forte sostegno all'azione dei governi con l'obiettivo di affermare il ruolo chiave dell'industria del digitale per lo sviluppo, non solo dei paesi avanzati, ma anche di quelli in via di sviluppo. Un'industria che può essere alfiere di opportunità per tutti, consentendoci di raggiungere gli obiettivi di sostenibilità ambientale, economica e sociale che ci siamo dati come membri della comunità internazionale. Nella Joint Declaration che abbiamo sottoscritto tutti insieme e di cui i colleghi fra poco ci illustreranno i principali spunti di riflessione, abbiamo delineato un approccio olistico al digitale. Le sfide e le opportunità investono ogni ambito, dalla sicurezza alla formazione, alla circolazione dei dati, al ruolo chiave nelle tecnologie abilitanti come quantum e intelligenza artificiale. Vogliamo avviare un confronto costruttivo e continuo con i governi affinché possano insieme sciogliere i dubbi, affrontare i nodi e liberare le energie e le risorse da mettere al servizio di tutti, imprese, cittadini e istituzioni. Abbiamo registrato una notevole convergenza con esiti alle ministeriali di Verona e Trento che si è tenuta il 13 al 15 marzo con la guida del ministro Urso e del sottosegretario Butti. In particolare ne abbiamo apprezzato la concretezza delle proposte, la disponibilità a costruire partenariati pubblici e privati, alla discussione con le industrie, soprattutto in ambiti particolarmente sensibili come l'intelligenza artificiale. In particolare rispetto ai temi di questa prima tavola rotonda voglio indirizzare alcuni brevi messaggi a nome di Confindustria e Anitec-Assinform, non senza prima ringraziare però il Ministro Urso e il Ministero delle Imprese del Made in Italy per il lavoro svolto in questi mesi. A livello internazionale gli investimenti in trasformazioni digitali raggiungeranno i 3.400 miliardi di dollari nel 2024. In Italia il settore ICT ha raggiunto nel 2023 il valore di 79 miliardi di euro con una crescita del 2,8% e supererà i 90 miliardi di euro nel 2026 con una crescita del 5%. Consolidare questo trend è fondamentale. Per farlo occorre però agire su diverse leve. Mi limito a evidenziarne due. In primo luogo la conoscenza. Insieme ai governi G7 vogliamo lavorare per favorire ancora di più lo sviluppo di un ecosistema della ricerca e dell'innovazione digitali per aiutare la trasformazione digitale delle grandi, medie e piccole imprese e con esse del tessuto economico e sociale di ogni paese. Possiamo e dobbiamo costruire strategie di politica industriale che ci consentano di investire in quantum, intelligenza artificiale, cyber security, 5G, 6G, valorizzando in primo luogo le competenze delle persone. Su questo fronte dare prospettiva ai giovani e giovanissimi deve essere il nostro obiettivo, investendo su politiche educative in chiave EdTech che coniughino innovazione nei modelli educativi e nei contenuti. In secondo luogo, crediamo sia fondamentale dare una nuova linfa non ideologica, ma improntata al pragmatismo, che valorizzi il ruolo del digitale nel quadro della Twin Transition, provando a coniugare innovazione e sostenibilità nei tanti ambiti in cui tutti i nostri governi e tutte le nostre industrie sono impegnate. Infine, dobbiamo aiutare le imprese ad adottare l'intelligenza artificiale. La spinta alla produttività di cui abbiamo enormemente bisogno arriverà quando l'intelligenza artificiale entrerà appieno nelle nostre aziende. Maggiore velocità, efficientamento dei processi, riduzione degli errori, eliminazione di attività rutinarie e potenziamento delle capacità e competenze delle persone. La strada è appena iniziata. Oggi in Italia le piccole e medie imprese ancora hanno bassissimi livelli di adozione dell'intelligenza artificiale. Parliamo del 5%. Anche per questo, come associazione, abbiamo lanciato un manifesto per l'intelligenza artificiale per offrire una bussola alle imprese e non solo a quelle. Siamo solo all'inizio, dicevo, ma investire in intelligenza artificiale deve diventare una priorità pena restare fuori dalla competizione globale. Vi ringrazio ancora per essere qui oggi e che sia una mattinata ricca di contenuti e condivisione. Buon lavoro a tutti noi.
Thank you, Marco, for your vision. And now it's time to discuss the Italian G7 priorities. Please welcome Vincenzo Del Monaco, Deputy Diplomatic Advisor of the Minister of Enterprises, and please welcome to Eva Spina, Chief Department of Digital of the same ministry. You will speak together, and please.
Thank you very much, moderator, dear Mr. Di Pizzo. Thank you very much, Presidente Guy. It's a pleasure, it's an honor, it's a responsibility also to address this such a qualified parterre of knowledgeable people. I see a number of well-known faces, colleagues and friends, and my respect goes to all the representatives from the tech associations that traveled all the way, even from the other side of the ocean, to gather in Rome and contribute to this morning exchanges and talks. I would like actually from the onset to salute and express gratitude to my colleagues from the diplomatic corps accredited in Italy, because if we consider, as we consider, the outcome of the ministerial meeting in Verona and in Trento a success, it is also thanks to your immense contribution, because the G7 is a teamwork. And I strongly believe in the saying that says that together we go faster, alone we go faster, but together we go further. And I believe that we went further, we took the discussion further with the ministerial works in Verona. The presidency has thoughts, has ideas, puts on the table a number of proposals, tries to translate this proposal in something which is chewable from the partners group. But then, as I said, it remains on the responsibility of each and every delegation to gather around these thoughts. And what I found very interesting since the beginning of this WinZip negotiation effort that took us until the ministerial meeting in Verona, because we started from Christmas. You were all celebrating with panettone and spumante, whereas some of us were, rolling up their sleeves and working on the possible text of the declaration. Is this amazing? It was my first time actually working on the G7. The amazing approach of each and every delegation, very pragmatic, results-oriented, the spirit of belonging to, I wouldn't say an inner circle, but a family, because it's a family that abides by the same rules, by the same principles, and we all work for prosperity, for peace and security, and this is not ticking the box or a lip service. It's something which needs to be reiterated at every occasion and should never be taken for granted. And what we see around us reminds us of the challenges we're all confronted with on a daily basis. And again, it speaks for the meaningfulness of the G7 and of our respective contribution to that. I would also like to pay respect to Japan, the presidency that preceded us in this big endeavor, because it is thanks to their very valuable work that we managed to do something more, building on that. So again, this is one of the features of the G7, is conservative, because we build on a block of principles of consolidated language and outcomes, and then we try to take it further, so bringing added value. So it's conservative and visionary in the meantime. And we built on the Hiroshima Declaration. We took inspiration from the work, and we trust we will be given to restitute this kindness to our successors, the Canadian presidency in 2025. And maybe since I'm in Rome and I need to exercise a little bit also my mother tongue, I will now switch to Italian. And maybe if you get too bored, I will go back to English at the end. Il Ministro ha già detto tutto nel suo intervento. Credo che la bellezza dei leader politici è di saper condensare in 3 minuti quello che un diplomatico direbbe in 2 giorni. Per cui tutte le parole chiave...
Non ce li abbiamo. We don't have 2 days.
You should have told me before, actually. And il Ministro ha già menzionato tutte le parole chiave che sono alla base delle priorità e dell'approccio della Presidenza italiana del G7. Però io mi sono frantically scritto anche tutta una serie di parole chiave che sia lei, dottore, che lei, Presidente, avete menzionato, e mi fa piacere notare che lo spirito della Presidenza italiana di inclusività, di partecipazione, di apertura è esattamente lo spirito del TECH7, così come è stato lo spirito del B7, ed è il messaggio che ne scaturisce. Non è un messaggio di timore. Noi non abbiamo paura dell'intelligenza artificiale, non abbiamo paura delle nuove tecnologie, non abbiamo paura della luce solare. Cioè si tratta di fare in modo che lo strumento possa avere una lettura e possa avere un dispiegamento, un deployment di carattere positivo. Per cui a volte bisogna mettere dei guardrail. Penso alla legislazione che è stata fatta in Europa, per esempio con l'AI Act, penso all'Hiroshima Process, ma noi dobbiamo avere uno spirito positivo, per cui i messaggi della ministeriale di Verona ed i messaggi che sono sottintesi alle priorità della Presidenza italiana, che il Ministro Urso ha chiaramente indicato, sono crescita, prosperità, sicurezza, coordinamento, enabling new growth, beneficial, potential, cioè voi nella dichiarazione non trovate degli elementi negativi, perché si lavora per il futuro, si lavora per far sì che ciò che abbiamo venga impiegato nel modo più utile. Il Ministro credo che abbia ricordato anche che si è trattato della prima volta a distanza di 7 anni di una ministeriale industria. Questo perché ha giustamente ritenuto che il G7 oggi, nel 2024, debba riflettere una priorità che è su tutti i tavoli internazionali, quantomeno dei paesi che hanno qualcosa da dire in materia di politica industriale. Pensiamo alle priorità all'interno dell'Unione Europea, transizione verde e digitale, ma in realtà non ci sarà transizione verde se non potrà appoggiare su una transizione digitale. Ed ecco ancora una volta il valore aggiunto di questa riunione e delle raccomandazioni che avete stilato. C'è un analogo dibattito piuttosto massiccio anche negli Stati Uniti. Pensiamo a tutta la legislazione sull'aiuto alla produzione nazionale, all'IRA. C'è un analogo dibattito con un grande sforzo politico anche in Giappone, e il ministro Urso si è recato in visita in Giappone alla vigilia dell'inizio della presidenza italiana, il 13-14 di dicembre, se la memoria non mi tradisce, come passaggio del testimone e per recepire anche tutta una serie e condividere con la presidenza uscente le priorità della presidenza italiana. E poi avete visto anche nei giorni scorsi c'è stata questa riunione trilaterale per la quale rinnovo i complimenti all'amico e al collega Frédéric Kaplan, perché impeccabilmente organizzata dai francesi a Parigi, con il ministro Le Maire e il vice cancelliere Habeck, che non è intesa come un club, non è quello, è semplicemente i 3 paesi con la manifattura più forte a livello europeo che discutono di priorità, perché poi possano essere riversate, possano essere da trailblazer, da apripista, piuttosto che da provocatore intellettuale per una riflessione evidentemente aggiornata a livello europeo. Il Ministro è stato chiaro, l'approccio è concreto e l'approccio è inclusivo, ed è a motivo di ciò che si è riunito il B7, uno dei vostri colleghi degli engagement group, alla vigilia del G7. Il Ministro ha già detto quali sono i messaggi chiave che abbiamo ricevuto, per cui non sto a ripeterli, ma non si è solamente riunito il B7 alla vigilia. Per la prima volta nel G7 c'è stata una riunione congiunta del B7 e del G7, perché l'idea è quello che il G7 non è scollegato dalla realtà, cioè il G7 recepisce le istanze che vengono dalle imprese, non necessariamente deve farle proprie, ma devono essere embraced, encompassed nella riflessione generale che viene condotta, e devo dire che c'è stato un filo conduttore che ha tenuto assieme il B7 e il G7. Avete anche notato che abbiamo invitato una serie di ospiti, a cominciare dall'Ucraina. È un messaggio politico forte quello che è stato voluto dare, cioè la prima ministeriale in presenza della presidenza italiana del G7 ha avuto la vice premier ucraina presente, messaggio politico ma anche un messaggio di contenuto, perché il vice premier ha chiaramente illustrato ai propri colleghi tutto lo sforzo del proprio paese nel digitale, nell'intelligenza artificiale, addirittura su questi programmi che servono per rimettere nel mercato del lavoro i veterani della fase post-conflict. Per cui straordinario come un paese in guerra riesca a riflettere in maniera concreta, hands-on, sul futuro, programmando già una fase post-bellica e come recuperare nel tessuto socio-economico, produttivo direi, coloro che saranno tornati dal fronte. Avete visto gli Emirati Arabi Uniti per coprire un altro quadrante, ovviamente c'era la Corea del Sud e poi le organizzazioni internazionali, l'Unione per le telecomunicazioni internazionali, perché è una delle agenzie principali della famiglia onusiana che scrive le regole del gioco quando si tratta di digitale, di intelligenza artificiale, e poi UNDP, che è un nostro knowledge partner che abbiamo individuato pensando al volo esterno della ministeriale, perché UNDP ci dà un respiro in qualche maniera universale e ci porta, ancora una volta, all'approccio inclusivo, partecipativo, top down e bottom up, cross cutting, scegliete voi le parole che ritenete, però da quest'idea di all encompassing, perché UNDP con la presenza capillare in magna pars del globo riflette adeguatamente, con grande professionalità, le istanze, le esigenze, le strozzature, bottlenecks, che arrivano dai paesi in via di sviluppo. Io mi prometto sempre di essere breve, poi quando ho un microfono ne approfitto, anche perché a casa non posso mai parlare più di 5 minuti e non ho mai diritto alla conclusione, per cui insomma dovete essere un attimo pazienti. Vorrei dirvi ancora poche cose, per darvi un po' l'idea, prima di lasciare la parola a Eva Spina, che è molto più qualificata di me e che mi ha offerto il privilegio di co-chair il gruppo negoziale del G7. Noi abbiamo scelto una serie, a lavori chiusi della ministeriale, noi abbiamo individuato una serie di sottotitoli. Avremmo potuto mettere dei sottotitoli per ogni capitolo della ministeriale. Questo voi non lo sapete perché è cucina interna. La prima parte, che è quella sulle enabling technologies, intelligenza artificiale, sono uscite due parole chiave, secondo me. Una era consistency e l'altra era commonality, che trovo che siano due parole piuttosto importanti come filo d'Arianna di tutta la discussione sulla parte dell'intelligenza artificiale. Interessante anche il filo conduttore della seconda sessione, che era quella su infrastrutture sicure e semiconduttori, sulla quale non dirò nulla perché era a porte chiuse, per cui tradirei la bellezza del G7, non mi ricordo neanche quello che stavo detto. E lì le parole chiave erano from competition to cooperation. Io direi anche from competition to coordination. E poi la terza invece, we went public, perché l'abbiamo scritta proprio nella dichiarazione ministeriale e la confermiamo a lavori fatti, quando abbiamo parlato di digital for development, growing together, cioè questa idea che il G7 abbia una dimensione interna e anche un messaggio verso l'esterno, ma non un messaggio di patronizing verso l'esterno. Adesso noi vi diciamo qual è la ricetta che fa più bene a una parte del mondo. No, l'idea è che o si cresce tutti quanti assieme, secondo alcuni criteri, secondo alcuni standard, facendo leva, come dicevo all'inizio di questo sintetico intervento, su diritti umani e democrazia, oppure rischiamo di andare gambe all'aria. Due parole sui semiconduttori, poi mi arrendo. È una grossa novità che abbiamo introdotto, perché se n'era parlato, era menzionato nella dichiarazione economica dei leader ad Hiroshima, ma abbiamo ritenuto che il G7 dovesse parlarne in maniera ancora più strutturata, e quindi l'istituzione di questo gruppo di lavoro con un'agenda che riguarda sia la ricerca industriale precompetitiva, priorità di sviluppo, sustainable manufacturing e poi dei canali di coordinamento. E poi l'ultimo punto, che è il volo esterno, è l'EIA Hub for Development, e che offriremo ai partner delle proposte in tempi ragionevolmente brevi. È uno dei punti qualificanti della presidenza italiana. La intendiamo come una piattaforma pubblico-privato. Molti di voi sono già al corrente di che cosa abbiamo in mente, di questa fase esploratoria che stiamo conducendo, ed è il frutto anche di un grande endorsement politico che abbiamo ricevuto dal G77+, c'era Singapore, dai gruppi regionali dell'Africa, dal G20, io stesso ero ad Addis Abeba nei giorni scorsi con l'Unione Africana, ed è la Banca Africana di Sviluppo, ed è un tema che ci vedrà impegnati pancia a terra nei mesi che verranno. Spero di avervi dato così qualche idea di massima, vi ringrazio per la pazienza, over to you. Grazie.
Please, Eva Spina.
Buongiorno e grazie a tutti, in particolare ringrazio il Presidente Gai per l'organizzazione di questo evento, per aver coinvolto anche noi, come diceva il Ministro del Monaco, co-chair del working group che ha portato poi ai lavori, a definire i lavori del G7. Mi unisco ai ringraziamenti appena fatti dal Ministro del Monaco nei confronti di tutti i rappresentanti dei 6 paesi più la Commissione europea che hanno partecipato ai lavori. È stato davvero un lavoro di gruppo, reale, interessante, anche per per me era la prima volta, e ho potuto toccare con mano come i vari paesi fossero tutti protesi a realizzare qualcosa di concreto. Questo è un altro termine, forse tra le parole chiave, no? Che viene fuori dai lavori del G7, la concretezza. È quello che abbiamo cercato di fare, ovvero non limitarci a lavorare per una dichiarazione di principi teorici, ma una dichiarazione che potesse portare poi a qualcosa di reale e che potesse restare, fare qualcosa di buono, se mi consentite, qualcosa di buono per tutti, a cominciare dall'uso delle nuove tecnologie e dell'intelligenza artificiale. È stato detto più volte, ma è un tema condiviso, le nuove tecnologie e in particolare l'intelligenza artificiale possono cambiare la nostra concezione della vita, nella vita quotidiana, ma anche la vita nell'ambito lavorativo, professionale e industriale. E l'approccio che abbiamo cercato tutti insieme di seguire e quindi di dare è stato quello di dare una valutazione positiva alle nuove tecnologie. Spesso e volentieri si sente parlare di intelligenza artificiale come qualcosa che possa essere quasi una minaccia, dei rischi, il che può anche essere vero perché ha delle potenzialità non parificabili a altre tecnologie già realizzate in passato. Però le nuove tecnologie e in particolare l'intelligenza artificiale possono senza dubbio essere un fattore di sviluppo, un driver per lo sviluppo, e quindi dobbiamo lavorare tutti insieme per far sì che questo fattore di sviluppo si possa realizzare al meglio, sostenendo le imprese. Abbiamo sentito prima che soltanto il 5% delle piccole e medie imprese ha già avuto un approccio concreto con l'intelligenza artificiale. Dobbiamo lavorare anche su questo. E infatti, mentre il discorso è stato ovviamente omnicomprensivo verso l'intero mondo industriale e produttivo, le piccole e medie imprese meritano una attenzione particolare da parte di tutti quanti noi. E che cosa abbiamo immaginato di fare? Di andare appunto sul concreto e di realizzare una verifica, una lista con un report finale di tutte le iniziative che i vari stati hanno già realizzato o che intendono realizzare nel prossimo futuro, proprio per sostenere l'implementazione delle nuove tecnologie nel mondo industriale, evidenziando ovviamente le best practices realizzate, individuando anche eventuali fattori negativi già emersi proprio per renderli noti a tutti, condividere la consapevolezza di cosa si deve evitare e sentire, e questo è un altro aspetto, un'altra parola chiave, l'inclusività, sentire gli stakeholder, i diretti interessati, il mondo produttivo. E qui devo dire che il vostro engagement group può svolgere un ruolo importante nell'attività che nei prossimi mesi, nelle prossime settimane, anzi, noi dobbiamo realizzare, ovvero capire i vostri punti di vista, i vostri bisogni, le vostre preoccupazioni e come appunto questo possa essere recepito nell'ambito dei lavori che stiamo facendo per costituire poi parte di raccomandazioni che il G7 potrà rivolgere a se stessi ma alle proprie strutture produttive. E da questo punto di vista, come diceva il Ministro del Monaco, stiamo lavorando pancia a terra, è vero, non soltanto per l'aspetto del AI Hub, ma anche per questo tema, per realizzare il report. Ora noi abbiamo programmato una serie di incontri con il working group, quindi a breve ci si rivedrà e quindi riprenderemo gli incontri periodici per stabilire che tipo di anche domande, come coinvolgere al meglio per ottenere i migliori risultati in termini di informazioni utili gli stakeholder, quindi anche il TECH7, e ringrazio preventivamente per l'eventuale coinvolgimento e cooperazione con noi, proprio perché l'idea di lavorare insieme. E questo è un tema che la condivisione delle informazioni, delle competenze anche, è emerso ovviamente per l'intelligenza artificiale, ma anche per il quantum. Il quantum è un'altra delle tecnologie emergenti che non ha raggiunto lo stesso grado di maturazione pari all'intelligenza artificiale già, però è al livello idoneo di sviluppo perché ci possa essere quella cooperazione fra stati, ma anche e soprattutto fra soggetti interessati, soggetti del mondo privato, che possono condividere insieme le informazioni utili. La condivisione è un'altra di quelle parole chiave che è emersa dal G7. È necessario cooperare su vari fronti per varie finalità. E il quantum, che può avere poi, sappiamo tutti, non entro nel dettaglio ovviamente, i vari ambiti di applicazione, il computing, la sensoristica, le comunicazioni, con l'evoluzione che potrà portare questa nuova tecnologia. Siamo nel momento ideale per far sì che ci possa essere il passaggio, il trasferimento tecnologico tra la ricerca e le imprese, proprio perché è la fase nascente, forse se possiamo usare queste parole, per realizzare la vera implementazione nel mondo produttivo. Già esistono dei consorzi nei vari stati che già stanno realizzando l'implementazione nel settore produttivo e l'apporto, il beneficio aggiuntivo che può dare il G7 è proprio quello di sostenere lo sharing delle informazioni. È il momento ideale per poterlo fare, per far sì che possa fiorire e crescere nel miglior modo possibile, dando quel valore aggiunto proprio al settore produttivo. Se questa era la prima parte, diciamo, degli obiettivi che si è posta alla dichiarazione, quindi il lavoro congiunto, c'è stato poi l'attenzione molto importante alla sicurezza e resilienza delle reti di comunicazione. Reti di comunicazione che ormai hanno vari ambiti di sviluppo, diciamo. Ci sono quelle classiche terrestri, ovviamente, ci sono quelle sottomarine e satellitari. Abbiamo cominciato a ragionare su, in particolare, lo sviluppo dei cavi sottomarini prima che le cronache portassero all'attenzione di tutti quanto siano importanti i cavi sottomarini per la condivisione delle informazioni. I cavi portano i dati tra continenti quasi al 99%, quindi è lo strumento più usato per la trasmissione dei dati. E i recenti casi di cronaca, diciamo, per alcune situazioni geopolitiche particolari hanno evidenziato come ci possano essere dei colli di bottiglia critici proprio per la condivisione delle informazioni tramite questo mezzo questa rete di comunicazione. E tutti in ambito G7 abbiamo condiviso quanto sia fondamentale e importante che queste reti siano sicure, affidabili e si sta valutando anche la possibilità di ampliare il numero e eventualmente nuove rotte per avere le reti, diciamo, dei cavi sottomarini. Storicamente, per ragioni ovvie, diciamo, di facilità anche di realizzazione, è la parte centro-sud del mondo che è interessata dalle connessioni e si è cominciato a ragionare insieme se è possibile, opportuno e fattibile anche immaginare delle rotte diverse, magari più sfidanti, ma che potrebbero sciogliere alcuni dubbi e problemi che invece le rotte classiche già possono porre all'attenzione di tutti quanti noi. E per questo si è realizzata una joint declaration congiunta che è allegata alla dichiarazione, ne costituisce parte integrante della dichiarazione, in cui si è condivisa tutta questa lista di necessità, di bisogni, di condividere, di lavorare insieme, di verificare se un'idea sfidante possa essere effettivamente realizzata nel prossimo futuro e che possa contribuire a migliorare e rendere più sicure le comunicazioni in ambito sottomarino, dei cavi sottomarini. Non è l'unico settore, diciamo, in cui ci possono essere le comunicazioni. Il settore satellitare sta prendendo sempre più spazio ed è quello appunto spaziale, l'ambito spaziale delle comunicazioni satellitari, e anche questo sta diventando oggetto di cronaca quotidiana e ovviamente anche in questo settore l'attenzione alla sicurezza, alla resilienza e all'affidabilità dei fornitori è un tema comune che vale per tutti gli ambiti delle reti di comunicazione e anche in questo caso si è condiviso di lavorare insieme. La cooperazione è qualcosa di reale che necessita da parte di tutti e devo dire che è qualcosa che è emerso in modo molto vivace dalla discussione del G7. Come dicevo prima, è stata la prima volta per me assistere e partecipare in modo attivo a questo tipo di meeting e vi confesso che mi immaginavo qualcosa di più statico, con i vari paesi che rappresentavano il proprio punto di vista. Invece sotto i miei occhi si è realizzata una vera discussione molto vivace, molto attiva, partecipativa, con proposte che sono nate lì per lì, quindi non già lavorate nell'ambito del working group, ma qualcosa che è emerso proprio dalla discussione. Questo dal mio punto di vista è molto positivo. È molto positivo perché dà un valore aggiunto a questo tipo di incontri. Non è un esercizio burocratico, un qualcosa che si fa quasi per tradizione, ma un'occasione in cui i vari rappresentanti dei governi possono effettivamente condividere obiettivi, modalità per realizzare quegli stessi obiettivi e agire insieme quindi in modo concreto per realizzare quello che ci si è prefisso di fare. E questo forse è l'eredità più positiva che posso aver raccolto da questa esperienza di Verona del 14 marzo e poi il 15 a Trento. Lavorare insieme per realizzare insieme cose concrete ed è quello che insieme a tutti quanti voi vogliamo fare nei prossimi mesi. Grazie.
Thanks to Eva Spina. Now our first round table. We will have 3 speakers for 5-6 minutes each. Shaping our economic future, promoting sustainability and protecting democracy, the role of digital technology and digital industry. The first speaker is Stella Morabito, welcome, CEO of AFNAM. She represents the French Alliance of Digital Industry.
Comincio in italiano con i ringraziamenti veramente ai membri del governo presenti, a chiaramente l'Anitec-Assinform con Marco Gai, ma anche Leonora Faina e Francesco Giuffre e tutta la team che hanno organizzato fantasticamente questo incontro romano, i rappresentanti delle ambasciate che sono di fronte a noi, grazie tantissimo, e tutti i colleghi delle trade associations dei paesi del G7. Sono Stella Morabito, dunque dirigo l'AFNUM, che è l'associazione digitale, una delle associazioni digitali francesi, and I'll switch to English now for everybody. So thank you very much to give me this occasion of talking about the impact of new technologies and disruptive technologies on the economy. It's a vast subject. Why is it difficult to understand what the impact will really be of technologies like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and even networks, so 5G and 6G? It's because it's a systemic approach. So in a system, when you change a variable, all the other variables changes. So that's why it's not so easy to understand what the future will be about. Einstein said that the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Well, actually, we should be really intelligent to try and understand how changes will influence us. So I tried to reflect on a systemic vision. And what I can say is that actually, I concentrated on networks, on AI, and on quantum computing, how these three technologies can impact the ecosystem, they can impact business models, they can impact jobs and the evolution of our jobs and the way we actually create new talents. They will have an impact on standards, and we said that we need common standards in order to succeed. Of course, they impact our financing systems and the role of public financing, especially in early stage of technologies, which is crucial, the role of states in order to impulse investments. They impact the environment, we said, and we will see with some examples, and they impact further research and development because, of course, there are still things, especially you said it, in quantum computing, there are still a number of things to be developed. So if I may, let just give some example on the impact, for instance, of these technologies on business models. We say, if we take AI, we say that AI actually has a great impact on productivity. Why? Because we can actually automate a number of functions and, concentrate on more important subjects. Actually, France tried to measure how the impact on productivity could be. There has been a commission of experts that just gave their report at the end of the month of March. And actually, they estimated that in the next 10 years, if AI is used in industry, it could actually create an increase in gross domestic product from 250 to 420 billion euros. So it represents a whole new industry sector by itself, only the use of artificial intelligence. If we talk about changing of business models and we think about networks, if you think about using 5G in industry, so related to connecting, for instance, machines via wireless instead of wired connections, then you have all the question of who deals with the business model. Today, frequencies are sold and well paid by telecom operators. But nowadays, countries like Germany sell frequencies for private networks directly to industries. So it changes the equilibrium of who deals with what in the economy. Another thing that was always with business models that was quite interesting for me to hear, we went with a delegation to visit the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany. And one of the engineers told me, actually, when you use mobile connectivity, 5G, and tomorrow 6G, within the industry, the concept itself of product line doesn't make sense anymore, because you can change the position of the machines where you want, because they're not stuck to a fixed line, a fixed position. And this is very interesting when we think that we want to reindustrialize Europe. Namely, and therefore for small businesses that cannot have build factories by themselves, if they use shared facilities which exist, Bosch for instance is one of the European manufacturers that gives the possibility that, of OEM factories to others, well then wireless environments could be very interesting for the industry. And I could go on and on with the examples of how business models are impacted by actually these changes and new technologies. If we take financing also, I said, the crucial role of public-private funding. Just to give you an example on quantum computing, actually there's a strategy, France put in place a French strategy for quantum computing because France has the ambition of becoming one of the central countries in Europe, but also in the world for quantum computing development. And they put together a strategy over the next 5 years of 1.8 billion euros. Of these 1.8 billion euros, 1 billion is put on the table by the state via France 2030 strategy, or investment strategy. So I said crucial role of the countries in order to ignite some technologies. And today, quantum startups in France have raised more than 350 million euros, which puts France at the head of European countries, and it's the third fundraisers in the world after the United States and Canada. So really the importance of and the role of the state and of course private investors in impulsing new technologies. And last but not least, because I have several points but not much time left, I would talk about jobs. So again, in jobs, an estimation has been done by this group that I was telling you about, this group of experts, which has done this report in France very recently, and they estimated that 75,000 yearly, 75,000 new jobs will be actually created by AI development or AI deployment. And today, we're talking again about France because it's the example I know best, but we only train 10 to 15,000 such experts. So you see the gap. So we will need new skills for industry. And this will change. There's a debate on AI. Will it destroy jobs? Actually, what we think is it's not going to destroy jobs. It's going to change the way they are carried out. So the real problem will not be that of employment, and the numbers are quite significant. So we will create a lot of new jobs.
Please, Stella, go to conclusion.
Yeah, but, but it will be that of employability. So that's just to give a rough view, an overall view of impacts of new technologies on our economic and social environment. In conclusion, what should G7 countries do? Well, actually, they should push international standards. We said it. I didn't have the time to develop it, but it's a very important point. Investment and funding of new technologies is going to be paramount. We have to have also common guiding principles and codes of conduct, like we talked about before the Hiroshima Declaration. And cooperation is also a key word, because, of course, to imagine what the future will be like, we will have to be intelligent all together. Thank you.
Thank you. Please welcome Atsu Irai, Senior Executive Vice President of JETA, and Yun Nakaya, Chairman of Trade Policy Committee. We will speak together. I expect you will be brief and
Sure.
in the time.
Yeah,
Go.
Thank you, moderator. I'm honored to have this dialogue between the government and the tech industries of G7 countries. I would like to thank Anitec-Assinform for hosting this TECH7 high-level conference. I would also like to pay tribute to the leadership of Mr. Julian David of Tech UK in launching this TECH7. We, JETA, hope that the G7 meeting hosted by Italy will achieve tremendous results in promoting innovation and solving common global challenges. Innovation is the driving force behind industrial development and improvement of people's lives. And the recent advances in digital technology are particularly impressive. On the other hand, it is also true that the risks of cybercrimes and spreading of false information data by abusing digital technology are increasing. Without cybersecurity measures and fair rules, we cannot expect to realize this desirable future. I would like to emphasize the following 2 points. First, the tide of innovation should not be stopped, and it will not stop even if we try to. Second, digital technology spread easily across the borders. Therefore, international harmonization is important in creating rules for data protection and AI guidelines. JETA is working on green by digital activities in cooperation with PACT of WBCSD, aiming to realize a green society by digital technology. Fair use of digital technology and distribution of data across borders based on rules is expected to have significant social benefits, such as reducing CO2 emissions throughout the supply chain. After then, so Mr. Nakaya, Chairman of the JETA Trade Policy Committee, will continue our presentation. So Nakaya-san, please.
Welcome.
Thank you. Twin transition is an important concept for achieving sustainable future in terms of digital technology and environment, and must be addressed jointly by companies, governments, and international associations. At present, efforts are being made to achieve carbon neutrality and improve energy efficiency on a global scale. In this context, the visualization, traceability, and reliability of carbon data in the supply chain play an important role. It is important to ensure security and reliability in order to analyze data and work to reduce emission across supply chain involving different actors. Based on this concept, JETA are promoting cross-industry initiative called the Green Digital Consortium. In order to share and exchange CO2 emission data among companies in the supply chain, first, a framework for data acquisition. Second, technical specifications for data linkage were developed. These specifications are designed to be highly compatible with the Pathfinder network and Pathfinder network developed by WBCSD PACT. Fujitsu, a member of JETA, served as a project manager and successfully completed demonstration project last summer with participation of 32 companies from IT, electronics industries, as well as automobile and material companies. We would like to proceed the implementation phase while verifying and ensuring interoperability on a global level. Supply chain is spreading globally, and we understand that the visualization of the carbon data is in the supply chain is one specific example of DFFT, data free flow with trust. Advancing the social implementation of DFFT will contribute significantly to achieve carbon neutrality, and we look forward to mechanisms that encourage the use of safe and reliable digital technology. In addition to supply chain, digital technology must be used to reduce environmental impact in order to build a more environmental friendly and sustainable future. For example, the efficient use of energy and integration of renewable energy are being promoted through the construction of smart cities and the introduction of smart grids. Environmental monitoring and analysis using digital technology are also improving the understanding and management of environmental risks. As we move forward with the twin transition, we urge G7 to recognize the role of digital technology, particularly connectivity, digital infrastructure, AI, cloud-based services, in accelerating and supporting decarbonization. G7 countries should also promote the cross-border dissemination of digital goods. Product and geographical coverage expansion ITA, Information Technology Agreement, can be one of the solutions. G7 country needs to step up their support for international research effort that supports the rapid development of AI, digital twin, and emerging technology to help mitigate this climate risk. So, global and coordinated approach is also needed to strengthen, support the development of international standards and to strengthen incentive for circular design and business model in electronic sectors. This is the end of my explanation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for introducing the key issue of environment. And now with Angela Mandu, TechNation Canada CEO, another key issue, cybersecurity. Please.
Buongiorno. Thank you. I am thrilled to be here at this high-level conference, and I congratulate Anitec-Assinform, Marco, and Team Italia. You have set the bar for Canada. So thank you for that. You did a great job. I'm here to address cybersecurity cooperation and how we enhance competition, and I thought to put it in perspective, I'd give you three numbers, 3, 4, and 10.5. $10.5 trillion by 2025 is going to be the cost of cybercrime. 4 million qualified cybersecurity experts is the gap of experts that we have right now. 50% of the force that we need is really missing, and we're really cannot adequately safeguard digital assets right now. And 3, the third largest economy behind the US and China is cybercrime. That is something to pause and think about. And when you think about the small, medium enterprises, 90% of our GDP around the world, 70% of our labor force, they don't have the resources. And this has been a theme that's been coming up quite a bit today. So really what we have when we consider TECH7 and G7 and the work that we're trying to do around the world is a global coordination problem. And at the base of that, from a technology perspective, is our data capability. The key theme I want to put on the table today for all of us is interoperability and operationalization. How do we make things happen? Because we do meet and come up with tremendous joint statements and reports. And now we're at a phase, I think, as we work together to really start operationalizing what we're trying to do. So it comes down to collaboration of public-private sector, coordination of threat intelligence, and combating the cybersecurity space with AI. I want to start with collaboration of public and private sectors. Last year, I had the opportunity of speaking with an incredible leader, the U.S. National Cyber Director, Chris Inglis, and he'd written in a magazine, Foreign Affairs.
Sorry, speak loud.
Oh, am I not speaking loud enough?
Closer to the microphone.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Normally I'm pretty loud. So in Foreign Affairs, he talks about the global cyber challenge and really that the responsibility of security comes down to the lowest denominator. That means the small, medium enterprise, the small government, the citizen. They have more of the burden, but they don't have the resources. And as he describes it, we need to provide a collective, collaborative defense to replace divided efforts and smaller entities. Government and large business need to come together. That's what we're all about. Government needs to increase threat intelligence and use industry as a vital partner. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And business needs to invest. They need to invest in strategy and distribute those capabilities. So as Chris says, and I really like this saying, with each of us playing our part, we can make it so that our adversaries will have to beat all of us to beat one of us. Last year, Tech Nation had the opportunity to put the government to the test when it came to cybersecurity, and they stepped up. In Canada, the cyber threat right now, we're facing over 2.3 trillion malicious attacks a year, 6 billion attacks a day. And we have a cyber task force at Tech Nation, so we came together with our members, everybody from Microsoft to smaller innovators, and had a strategic knowledge exchange with our government leaders, 20 government executives, 10 of us technology experts. We landed after half a day on one key recommendation, and that was that government and industry had to share threat intelligence. So it's good to talk about it, but this year and this month, we're going to be announcing that we actually have been able to operationalize that dialogue. We've come together with the head of cybersecurity of Canada, who removed barriers, which were around top secret clearances, to allow industry to participate, share data, share threat intelligence. So really, at the end of the day, what we've been able to do is something that I look forward to working with the TECH7 on, which is striving to operationalize some of those areas that we're talking about to cooperate around cybersecurity. I want to talk a little bit about how the framework already exists with the G7 with a cyber expert group, which focuses on enhancing cyber threat intelligence among member nations, really around policy and strategy. So if we consider the mechanism that we all have, which is data-free flow with trust, it's established to facilitate flow of data with trust and governance around trade, but we could use that mechanism as well to coordinate and share the information and sharing of threat intelligence, and the end result could be through a TECH7 initiative and G7 initiative, the ability to expand that cyber resilience. Lastly, I want to talk about the explosion of Gen AI and the demands of leveraging that AI. I was speaking with one of our cyber task force members who specializes in managed threat detection, and he was telling me that Gen AI has provided hackers the capability of doing what they do in 48 hours. They've now compressed it to 6 hours. Their productivity, like everybody else's, is increasing. So we absolutely have to combine our ability to share information, intelligence, and AI capabilities, because if we don't, we will get caught flat-footed. We have in TECH7 the companies who are sophisticated in AI. They're providing anomaly detection. They're providing behavioral analysis, threat information, and intelligence. They're supporting borders and nations around the world. So we have the opportunity as TECH7, I think, to come together with our G7 members and lead the way in terms of coordinating what we can in this space. So I want to end on where I started. We do have capabilities around interoperability. I think that's how we can work together now to move things forward over the next few years. And I'm going to put a stake in the ground. You've inspired me here in Italy with this discussion to invite next year, along with our economic leaders and our digital leaders, our security leaders as well, because security really now is part of the foundation of the defense in terms of what we can provide in technology. So I know Marco isn't here, but he did say to me last night, the battle is on for Canada. I take it with great honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We have just listened to many interesting speeches. Who wants to react? We have some minutes.
Maybe
Please.
let's start it off just very quickly.
Luca Pierantoni, Head of Political Affairs
I
Department.
think we have 10 minutes, we are 7, so it'll take 1 minute and 10 seconds maybe to just to say we very much agree with the Italian government position that the tones, around this digitalization should be positive, constructive, and this is pretty much what the European Commission has been trying to do with the various legislative acts that we have been proposing. The Data Protection Act, the Cybersecurity Act, the Service Act, the Market Act, and finally, the last act on artificial intelligence that has been approved in March. As you know, this last act has taken a little bit more time, and the reason is that on artificial intelligence, it was necessary to find the right balance between the need, of course, not stopping a fundamental part of digital transition that can create a boost for our growth, but at the same time minimizing all possible negative effect and risk on civil and social rights. So this is the reason why the regulation has been approved only in March, and the discussion within the Parliament and the Commission has been particularly interesting, I believe. Now, without perhaps going into the details of the regulation that, as you know, ranks in different groups, different kinds of artificial intelligence, perhaps saying that whatever regulation one could approve on artificial intelligence and more generally on digitalization, this will evolve all the time because the technology evolves all the time. There is no way that one can set in stone regulations that are valid on technologies that are moving so fast. So the European Commission is looking at the definition of standards and codes of practice together with the private sector, defining together some principles that can be after used when the situation evolves. And perhaps the last point is about international cooperation. If this debate is going to continue for the next few years, of course, this is a debate that we have to carry on all together, and this is the reason why we are very much sharing the understanding that informed the US executive order, the G7 principles. We are working in the Hiroshima process. We are supporting the work of the Council of Europe for AI, and of course, we very much welcome initiatives like this one, and we thank very much the organizers for inviting us today.
Regulation is an ongoing work. Any other? Please, Frédéric Kaplan,
oui, Frédéric.
Minister Councillor for Economic Affairs, France.
Je devrais parler français, mais tout le monde se précipiterait sur les traducteurs, donc so I switch to English. I am a little bit worried and very pleased that I'm becoming more and more Italian every day. As a matter of fact and a proof, I'm the only one in the room wearing a pullover called Dolce Vita. So thank you very much to our friends of MIMIT for hosting us, and thank you very much for the perfect organization. For France, we have 4 main points. The first one is we believe in more cooperation in technologies at the international level, and we believe it should be further developed and be as open as possible. Second, we all need to ensure a stable and effective regulatory environment, and thanks to Europe for that, to promote common standards, which are not the case today, and to simplify our administrative procedure. Third, we need to strengthen our national and international financing capacities for better and more protected infrastructure. It's becoming a real priority point for France and Europe today. And fourth, we also, of course, should support the development of education and human capacities dedicated to new technologies. And at the same time, and it's very important for Europe and for France, protect our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please.
Maybe also just very...
Let me introduce you. Stephanie Bank, First Secretary, Economic Affairs Department, Germany.
Yes, thank you. It has been already extremely interesting to listen to all of your points. I just wanted to mention that we have already come together with Italy and France in October or November last year to discuss like digital dossiers and artificial intelligence. And thank you, Italy, for organizing that. It has already shown what kind of catalyzer such a discussion can be, and it triggered further discussions not only in Germany but also I think in the European Union. It has been somewhat given a dynamic, and I can tell that regarding the feedback to the G7 ministerial meeting from a German side has been extremely positive, given the fact that it was also not easy. You were the first ones to start the G7 year, and the German delegation has been extremely pleased by the organization and also by the outcome of it. Just as like a global galactic observation, I can confirm what has been said, that like digitalization, the technologies that come with it, AI, networks, grids, all of that, it's an huge and enormous potential for our economies and for our industries, and we should really embrace it, even though this seems to me a rather complex issue given all the topics that you have mentioned, the environment and cybersecurity. So that, I think, gives our countries, and in various formats, G7, European Union, also lots of homework to really make sure that our countries and our companies are, and also as citizens, of course, are really ready to participate, to be able to innovate. And a big homework will be to give like reasonable guidelines that impose as little bureaucracy as possible and make the environment as innovation friendly as possible. And as you all have said already, I can only agree, but the way to do this is to really do it in the spirit, hand in hand, and in a spirit of cooperation. And G7 is, I think, an extremely productive and progressive platform to get into a constructive dialogue with each other. So thanks again for the invitation.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to the rest of the event.
Do you want? Okay. Matthew Smith, Chancellor of Economic Affairs, USA.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. I want to thank in particular Ambasciatore Del Monaco for his comments. I'm going to steal a couple of his words. He mentioned consistency and commonality, and I'm encouraged by the recommendations that come out of this document, in particular the fact that all of them on the emerging technologies piece discuss cooperation and aligning standards. And some of my colleagues here at the table have already talked about standards alignment as a key imperative. What I raise my hand to add, however, is that this is not some theoretical conversation that we're having in the abstract, right? Things like standards are important even at a geopolitical level. And what comes to my mind is what we are taught commonly in the United States growing up about World War II. We are taught that the heroes of that war were the people that arrived on the beaches of France and that flew the planes in the South Pacific. But what I've come to realize is that one of the efforts that gave the Allied forces a lot of advantage in World War II was the logistics effort, standards, common standards, so that people working in factories in the United States and in Canada could produce supplies that could go to North Africa, to Europe, and to Asia, and be interoperable. And so, just like in that World War II effort, I'm looking at an economic advantage potential to our economies if we can all get on the same page with respect to standards, to attract investment, to create cooperation across borders. And there is a geopolitical component to this, because while there's potential, there's also risk of falling behind, of losing influence, of losing economic advantage. And so to close, as my good friend said, individually we go fast, but together we go far. Thank you.
It's a beautiful claim. Any
Matthew Kalish, yes, from the Embassy of Canada.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone to our hosts for welcoming us all here today. It's been a great discussion. I just want to mention a couple of our reactions to some of the key points that we noticed in the declaration. I mean, first of all, regarding the declaration, we appreciate the ambitious but practical and concrete approach that the group has taken to it. You know, some of the themes that we thought were really important: digital and cyber resilience, economic security, trade cooperation, and advancing the Hiroshima AI process to ensure better cooperation on AI. Some of the key themes and key points were, for example, engaging the GPI. We think that is very important. As a founding member of the Global Partnership on AI, we think it's a very important organization and a locus for coordination internationally. And we acknowledge the recommendation that was given by the TECH7 to establish intergovernmental task forces to tackle shared international AI challenges. Next, turning to our Japanese colleagues, the 2023 G7 Hiroshima AI process marked a significant step in the establishment of guiding principles, international code of conduct on the development of safe, secure, and trustworthy AI. And this has been a priority for Canada in our policy development as well. And we think that, as G7 hosts next year, we'd like to continue this theme and act as an example to our colleagues and partners around the table here, as an example of the effectiveness of a risk-based approach to AI governance, to push for safe, secure, and trustworthy AI systems. Another kind of more global theme of the G7 has been economic development and resilience around the world. And we feel that plays also a big role in the technology space. We see that the divide between developed and developing countries in access to digital technologies limits those developing countries' capacity to reap the benefits of new technology and meaningfully participate with partner economies around the world. And so we believe that this push for increasing access and reliability of digital infrastructure will help the adoption of emerging technologies, particularly by innovators, by small companies, and will help the growth prospects for all of us around the world. And the last point I just want to pull out of that declaration that we noticed was on data sharing and interoperability, which has been mentioned by some of our other colleagues as well. And we appreciate the approach and the recognition of the importance of safe and secure cross-border data transfers between like-minded countries that can let us, create synergies and let us all harness the benefits of digitalization. In Canada right now, there's a consideration of a Consumer Privacy Protection Act that will seek to strengthen privacy protections for Canadians and the use of their information. And this kind of goes along with the TECH7's recommendation for developing data strategies and shared principles for trusted digital infrastructure. So, we commend that effort and look forward to working on a lot of these themes with everyone next year as the host nation. So, yeah, thanks for everyone for the opportunity to be here today, and ai nostri colleghi italiani, buon lavoro per il resto dell'anno G7.
Grazie. Alexander, Affairs Embassy of Ukraine in Italy, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. President and ambassadors and dear friends. It's great pleasure and honor to be today the part of this interesting discussion for me, and because it is also of utmost importance for my country, for Ukraine, which is, thanks to the Italian presidency, is an outreach country invited for the formats of G7, as obviously and for not our choice, we are influencing in many ways the global political situation at the moment. Also in the fields of AI and cybersecurity and information technologies. And I would like to concentrate and to focus on that among other things today. First of all, we certainly appreciate very much, and I would like to express my gratitude to the G7 states for the substantial assistance provided to Ukraine in the military, financial, and economic spheres. And your support in this challenging period we are going through is of crucial importance, not only for us, but to European and global security. The situation in the country remains, well, you are aware of, quite challenging, very challenging. It's even this night we had the attack of 42 missiles and 40 drones, Shahed, and one of the, it is targeted on civilian objects and objects of energy infrastructure, and one of the bigger power plants next to Kiev, my home city, was totally destroyed this night. Tripilla station. So, well, we surely need and appreciate your further support in every possible field to Ukraine. However, as a matter of, as a point of this working table, I certainly would focus on information technologies and advancements being done in my country, also because of war and because we became very much developed in many fields as AI, as cybersecurity, as information technologies, of course, mostly targeted to this situation caused by war. So I will concentrate on that. Of course, we appreciate the general support of the G7 countries, economic and financial, and there have been many steps done so far in terms of generating financial resources. The reconstruction conferences were made by the Italian presidency, a successful conference in April last year. It's also, I'd like to mention the conference in Japan this February under the presidency of Kishida, Prime Minister Kishida. We are going to have there was the conference, donor conference in France last year, and we are going to have in London, was very successful June last year. And we are going to have the URC reconstruction conference in Berlin in June, which I invite all G7 countries to attend. Well, focusing on the as said, we are very much developed in such things as AI applied to defense industries, applied to demining, applied to cybersecurity, drone technologies in particular. And here at this table, there are associations who are very much aware as working already today with the Ukrainian specialists and understanding how developed they are, those technologies. We have the significant experience in e-governance. The famous application DIA is also in some part led by AI technologies. We invite the associations, the companies of G7 countries in the sector, really those working to continue working, those still not working to look at this sector of Ukraine, and we invite to start working with the country, because in this way it definitely supports our economy, our very prominent sector, and we want to become really the technological advancement hub of the region. So I invite all to pay attention also in this sector to Ukraine, and thank you very much for all support, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, and Slava Ukraini.
Heroям слава.
That's all. And we have served the coffee, but it's not for free. We'll also have a photo op in the last room. Thank you very much. Welcome back. I hope you are well rested and energized for our second half. Marco Gai, please introduce our discussion on artificial intelligence, but we have also a national anthem.
Grazie. Grazie molte Mario, grazie agli ospiti per il dibattito molto interessante, per la tavola rotonda che ha visto fra gli altri gli interventi di Francia, Giappone e Canada. Ringrazio Serafino Sorrenti per aver accolto il nostro invito a intervenire in rappresentanza del Dipartimento per la trasformazione digitale e del sottosegretario Butti. Grazie. Cercherò anche in questo caso di focalizzare l'attenzione su alcuni temi che abbiamo condiviso nella nostra Joint Declaration e che sono centrali per lo sviluppo del nostro settore e per la trasformazione digitale della nostra economia. Come sappiamo, in ambito G20 e Nazioni Unite si discute di come rimodellare le economie digitali contemplando gli obiettivi di sviluppo sostenibile e di inclusione digitale e finanziaria. Una prima risposta è utilizzare standard aperti, sistemi digitali condivisi e interoperabili e garantire l'accesso universale ai servizi. I nostri ecosistemi possono trarre enormi vantaggi dal consolidamento dei rapporti internazionali e della condivisione dei framework regolatori con i propri partner economici e industriali nel mondo. Penso al trasferimento dei dati che, nel rispetto del principio di reciprocità, sono sempre più essenziali per la crescita dell'economia, poiché favoriscono l'aumento delle esportazioni e dell'occupazione. Va individuato insieme un quadro globale per la sicurezza digitale e l'accesso delle imprese a risorse e dati transfrontalieri. Un vecchio adagio ricorda che da soli si va veloci, ma soltanto insieme si arriva lontano. Credo che questa sia una delle evidenze essenziali che emergono oggi quando parliamo di digitale, che di per sé inclusività, condivisione di opportunità e best practices, cooperazione tra tutti gli attori. Condivisione e coordinamento sono dunque gli ingredienti della ricetta che suggeriamo ai nostri paesi per avverare la piena trasformazione digitale delle proprie economie, in linea con i principi del digital development e per poter raggiungere il migliore sviluppo economico e sociale. In secondo luogo, le persone e le competenze. Come associazione noi abbiamo diversi programmi e iniziative per avvicinare i ragazzi al mondo del digitale. Lavoriamo sull'orientamento, ma anche sulla formazione di quei giovani in cerca di occupazione che possono trovare nel digitale un datore di lavoro buono. Su questo fronte, dare prospettive ai giovani e giovanissimi deve essere il nostro obiettivo, investendo su politiche educative in chiave edutech che coniughino innovazione nei modelli educativi e nei contenuti. Infine, l'ultimo punto che voglio condividere con voi è uno sguardo agli strumenti più performanti nei processi di trasformazione digitale e costituito dalle applicazioni di intelligenza artificiale. Ne ho parlato in parte nel mio primo intervento e i miei colleghi ne parleranno nei loro interventi. L'Italia ha dedicato all'intelligenza artificiale uno spazio importante tanto nell'azione di governo che nel G7. A livello europeo stiamo chiudendo il percorso di approvazione dell'AI Act che mira a dare una cornice normativa per lo sviluppo e l'utilizzo di sistemi di intelligenza artificiale con un approccio basato sul rischio. Su questo punto la nostra linea come associazioni e nello specifico come Confindustria Anitec-Assinform è improntata al realismo. Si tratta della tecnologia più promettente e più capace di impattare ogni ambito del nostro vivere. Per questo condividere principi e valori che devono ispirare i codici di condotta e coordinare le iniziative legislative dei vari paesi è necessario per garantire a una tecnologia globale di essere funzionale al consolidamento dei valori democratici e alla prosperità delle nostre economie. Non mi dilungo oltre e vi ringrazio nuovamente per l'attenzione e la partecipazione ai nostri lavori. Grazie.
Thanks, Marco. Now a focus on the Italy's G7 priorities. Please welcome Serafino Sorrenti, Chief Innovation Officer, Department for Digital Transformation.
Grazie Anitec, grazie Presidente per questo invito. E ho ascoltato attentamente il suo intervento e devo dire che collima prettamente con quelli che sono, diciamo, i punti che noi stiamo analizzando e stiamo portando avanti. Il sottosegretario Butti sicuramente in questi giorni è preso da quella che è l'attività per portare a termine l'attività sul DL in corso, dove sicuramente a breve ci sarà un risultato che spero possa, diciamo, mettere sinergia e possa, diciamo, in qualche modo essere l'anello di congiunzione fra quello che è il tavolo che noi abbiamo fatto già come primo step con le piattaforme, dove abbiamo cercato di coinvolgere tutti, ma soprattutto di avere la possibilità di interloquire con e ascoltare quelle che sono le necessità del piano industriale, di quelle che sono oggi i riferimenti del mercato. Ci sarà, diciamo, un incontro one-to-one che è emerso, diciamo, dall'incontro che abbiamo fatto qualche giorno fa al Dipartimento, dove insieme al sottosegretario Butti e a Baracchini abbiamo ascoltato tutti e quello che realmente vi chiediamo è la possibilità di avere un accordo sinergico che possa in qualche modo mettere d'accordo il governo sulle necessità che ci sono e che noi abbiamo bisogno. Detto ciò, torno indietro, torno a Trento, dove a Trento abbiamo avuto l'opportunità di confrontarci su quelli che sono, diciamo, e che saranno gli obiettivi dei prossimi mesi sul G7, dove contiamo di avere di puntare ad essere, più che ad avere un riferimento tecnologico del Paese, dove sicuramente c'è stata una grande sinergia tra i partecipanti. Sicuramente la tematica delle AI sarà il punto cardine dei prossimi mesi. Cercheremo in qualche modo di poter soddisfare quelle che sono, diciamo, le necessità, come lo è stato prima il piano di Hiroshima prima e oggi per il nostro Paese. Certo, come diceva lei, oggi la tematica dei giovani è sicuramente importante perché abbiamo un divario importante tra quello che oggi è il mondo dei social e la realtà dove viviamo. Cercheremo anche in questo, e lo sarà il piano sull'intelligenza artificiale che ha prodotto la commissione presieduta dal professor Greco, dove la formazione per i giovani sarà, diciamo, il punto di riferimento per il nostro Paese. Oggi si sente tanto parlare di problematiche di integrazione, lavoro, perdita di posti di lavoro, ne ho sentito anche qualcuno che parlava prima, ma oggi, come già è accaduto ai tempi di Internet, dove Internet era un problema, ci spaventava o comunque in qualche modo ci ha reso non attenti a quello che stava per accadere, è stata un'opportunità. Sicuramente lo sarà anche sull'intelligenza artificiale. L'intelligenza artificiale verterà sicuramente su un upskilling e su un reskilling importante, dove comunque la formazione sarà e avrà un ruolo determinante. Da parte nostra ci sarà la massima disponibilità affinché ciò possa accadere e in qualche modo cercheremo di essere presenti in quelle che saranno le necessità del nostro Paese. Grazie.
Grazie. Thank you to Serafino Sorrenti. Now, our second roundtable, empowering people and evaluating data in an AI-shaped economy, the road ahead. Please welcome to Tech UK with Julian David, CEO. He will focus on digital public infrastructures. Please. First of all, you know the rules. 5-6 minutes, please.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, I'll throw this away. So thank you, Mario. Thank you for the hurry up. First of all, let me start with a thank you and compliments to Marco, Francesco, and the team at Anitec-Assinform. Little did we know when we started this whole concept with a Zoom call 4 years ago that it would turn into such a fantastic event. And that's great. And I must just thank you, Hirai-san, for complimenting me, but actually a correction, it wasn't me, it was my team, and in particular, somebody who's here with me today, Sabina Chofu, leads our international trade, and was the originator of the idea. But what has really made it so powerful has been the enthusiasm of the trade associations to join in. And what really we want to do is to bring the voice of industry of private sector, of particularly digitally focused private sector to this. And more than that, the voice of the SME, and we've heard a lot from people talking about the importance of SMEs and the need for them to participate in the digital economy. So that's what we were thinking was important and what we wanted to do. As part of that, I want to just introduce the topic of digital public infrastructures. And what do I mean by that? To me, there are 4 key elements of digital public infrastructures. First of all, the tangible digital assets. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Secondly, the digital enablers. And then thirdly, digital government and public services, the provision of that. Lastly, collaboration. And I want to touch on each of those. So first of all, what are the tangible digital assets? Well, they're things that we all know, such as broadband and mobile networks, such as data centers, cloud computing facilities. There are also fundamentals, though, in this. Things like semiconductors. We've all seen what happens when there's a challenge on semiconductors or a choke on supply. New types of computing, such as quantum, have been mentioned. Different types of communication infrastructure, future networks. Again, thank you, Stella, you touched on how that's changing and what technology is doing there. And we need to be right at the front of that. And then lastly, one of the fundamentals that doesn't get discussed as much as it should, which is the energy, the electricity to power all these things. Connectivity without energy to drive the things that are flowing across the connectivity and are powering the applications is not going to be there. So we need a really big focus on energy infrastructure. And of course, it must be sustainable energy as we go forward. So these infrastructures are essential for enabling citizens and businesses to thrive in the digital age and to open up opportunity for all, which is a key theme that we must embrace at the G7 and the TECH7. But on top of those tangible assets, we then have this thing of digital enablers. And this is the things like digital ID, common systems digitally enabled that allow businesses and citizens to benefit from the technology that our members are all working on and providing. So digital identity, payment systems, data exchange, international standards of data exchange, really important. Those are the things that form the digital network that enable countries to safely and efficiently open economic opportunities and deliver social services to their residents. And now, increasingly, that's expanding to be foundational models of AI and other core digital enablers that we need as a community to manage and to promote. And they're catalysts for innovation and economic development. But on top of that, and this is really very much something to say to the G7 governments, there is a requirement for governments to actually be drivers of this, and they should be doing that through digital government and public services. That's about enhancing the efficiency and the effectiveness of the services we all use and want to use, either for trade or for welfare or for health, you name it, all of those areas. And citizens now really expect public sector digital services to be on a parity with the rest of what's happening to them through the private sector. It's not there yet. There are subpar experiences. Sometimes that's practice, sometimes it's policy. More often than not, it's about investment. And few large organizations can actually move into the modern digital world and have that digital public infrastructure without investment and without a change in attitude. Particularly, I would call upon governments to change their attitude from thinking about tech and IT as projects that you do sequentially, start them, you finish them. That's not how tech works. Tech is actually a process, and governments need to understand that. So they've got to address the legacy problem that they have already across the whole of public service, and they've then got to start to have this mindset of continuous improvement, a concept that I think is very well exemplified in Japan, Hirai-san. And that's how to transform economies, that's how to transform communities and nations and the G7. And it's going to keep changing. We've had so many technologies that are fundamental, mobile phones, smartphones, then social media, blockchain, AI. It's just going to keep coming, and the fundamentals of that mean you have to be flexible and you have to do that. But the only way to achieve that is through what I would like to emphasize as the last point and leave for thinking and discussion, which is it has to be about collaboration. It requires collaboration and collective action between governments, industry, academia, civil society, and private business, which is why we are so passionate about the TECH7 engagement. It requires standards that have to be citizen-centric, that have to be reflecting the values of the countries that are in the G7. It also has to be about bold investments in research and development, digital skills training, we're going to talk more about that, cybersecurity that's already been raised and shown what a huge issue that is. We need to be smarter than the bad guys. That's quite a challenge, but it's one we have to rise to. And it does require that shared commitment of putting people at the center of digital transformation efforts, ensuring no one is left behind. So in our paper, we do call on the G7 to shape the debate around digital public infrastructure safeguards, make their own high-level position, which can be the basis for international cooperation on a wider place. And it has good governance, transparency, and interoperability at the start of it. Of course, G7 countries are all different and sovereign, but sovereignty does not preclude collaboration. In fact, I would make the case that not only is it strengthened by collaboration, it's almost essential that there is collaboration between like-minded countries around the world to face these very big challenges. And that's what we were trying to get across in the paper. That's what I commend to all the governments and all the parties that are helping us with this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Please welcome to Guido Lobrano, Director General Europe for ITI. All over the world, it looks like there's a momentum to regulate artificial intelligence. In Hiroshima last year, a process started. Where are we going?
Grazie. Allow me a few brief words in Italian before I switch back to English. Vorrei innanzitutto ringraziare i colleghi e gli amici di Anitec-Assinform per l'eccellente organizzazione di questo evento e naturalmente tutti i colleghi del TECH7 per la collaborazione. Permettetemi inoltre di esprimere l'apprezzamento alla presenza italiana del G7 e a tutti i rappresentanti dei governi presenti oggi per l'opportunità di questo scambio. Now, switching back to English, the topic of my remarks today will be indeed artificial intelligence and the G7 Hiroshima AI process. The industries represented collectively by the TECH7 include companies across the entire AI value chain. AI, as we all know, offers tremendous opportunities for our future and for crucial objectives like the green transition, advancements in health, and for productivity, among others. It is clear that global leadership in AI development and use is a driver of competitiveness, but also a strategic advantage for G7 countries in the coming decades. And it is for this reason that we truly appreciate the continued focus on cementing the G7 countries' leadership in AI. The recent declaration of the G7 Industry, Tech and Digital Ministerial is on the potential of AI adoption in different sectors is an important first step. But we also see that governments around the world are pursuing their own approaches to AI. And the landscape of different national, regional, and multilateral frameworks is increasingly complex. Fragmented approaches would be detrimental to robust development of the technology and would also hinder innovation and safety. Coordination at the G7 must clearly continue and aim to avoid the risks of fragmentation. AI is developed through global and highly integrated ecosystems, so no country can really reap the benefits of the technology and address the potential challenges in isolation, linking back to what my colleague was just referring to. So this is why continued G7 collaboration on AI governance is fundamental and must pursue further alignment, compatibility of the frameworks, and between like-minded countries. Importantly, reliance on international standards and support for them in line with the WTO principles will be crucial to foster that alignment. So the Italian presidency of the G7 has a chance to move forward towards these objectives in the coming months. On behalf of the TECH7, I would like to thank the G7, the former Japanese presidency, and the incumbent Italian presidency for their leadership in pursuing collaboration through the Hiroshima process and for the successful development of the guiding principles and the code of conduct for advanced AI systems. The TECH7 strongly support the continuation of the Hiroshima AI process. Let me share briefly 4 priorities and recommendations from our paper to advance this process in the short and medium term. First of all, the G7, we believe, should continue raising awareness on the guiding principles and the code of conduct and encourage their uptake and implementation within the G7 and potentially also beyond. Secondly, the Hiroshima process should strengthen collaboration with industry. A structured dialogue like this one today with the TECH7 is necessary for the success of the initiative. Thirdly, the Hiroshima AI initiative should facilitate common understanding of key terms and concepts essential to AI governance. This will help avoid fragmentation of global regulatory environments. Countries should, for example, build consensus on key definitions, such as the concept of advanced AI systems, and also on foundational governance aspects, such as risk thresholds, evaluation, fairness and bias, and privacy. As I said, global standards play a vital role in this context, and the G7 should commit to leverage them in this space. This will help make governance frameworks interoperable and support trade and cooperation. Finally, the fourth recommendation is about how the Hiroshima AI process should be tailored to each stakeholder's role in the complex AI value chain. Tailoring application of the principles to the role of stakeholders would enhance their effectiveness in promoting responsible AI. Now let me conclude. As the G7 drives forward this important work on the Hiroshima AI process, and more generally, its cooperation on AI, the TECH7 looks forward, of course, to continuing this important dialogue in the months to come and to serve as an interface for productive dialogue with governments around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guido. Please welcome to Ray Pinto, Senior Director for Digital Transformation Policy, Digital Trade and Data Flows. Please.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to echo my thanks to Anitec, and thank you, Marco. Thank you, Francisco. Where is he? There he is, for an excellent event, and with your team, you really set a very high bar. To my fellow trade associations of the G7 and to our members who have traveled to this event, I'm going to be looking at data flows, and I just want to start with one phrase, right? It's a common phrase that all boats rise with the tide, right? And that tide is data. And I know we call it the new oil, but we shouldn't, because when we think of oil traditionally and several hundred years ago, oils were taken by member states to be hoarded and guarded and kept, privately and securely somewhere. We can't do that. We cannot do that with data. Data has to be something that is a common resource shared and flowing across borders internationally and globally. Why, you ask? Well, you can do a lot if you hoard that data in your member state or in your country, but when you share it, then we look at things where we see faster and better innovation. In healthcare, for example, what are we going to do at the next pandemic when there is pandemic X? Imagine if we were able to share all the biomarkers across the world, how much faster we could have come to those vaccines, and dealing with life-threatening diseases, in creating real innovations, to making sure that people who, no matter where remote or no matter where you are, you will be able to have access to healthcare. In my own home country of France, there are actually pockets of areas in France that have no access to doctors or healthcare. Data can change this. Data can also change the processes to be more efficient, to use less resources, to use less energy. And I think we all agree around this table, and I've heard this morning, no one has disagreed with that, right? But the thing is, there is an urgency on having to deal with this. We are seeing dramatic changes in our climate and environment. We're seeing dramatic needs for healthcare. We're seeing social issues in raising our children, in education, in fighting enemies at our borders. We have to work together. We have to treat it urgently. I know that G7 countries are doing a lot of great things, which I'll talk about. But I also want to talk about one important thing, is economics. And this is more of a message to my fellow colleagues in the EU. If we did a study very recently, and if you look at 2030, if we were able to have unfettered and free flow of data with no restrictions, with no data localization, we would be looking at plus 2 trillion by 2030 for the EU alone. That's the size, generally, of the Italian economy. It would mean 2 million more in jobs. But with the restrictions that we have today and the continuing trend of localization and restrictions, that opportunity is going to be cut by 50% minimum. So there is a lot that we can lose if we don't address this. So what can we do practically, right? Looking at the G7, I think one main message is you're doing a lot of great stuff, right? Fantastic, but do more and do it faster. So if you look globally, we have 11 data protection adequacy agreements, right? Japan, Korea, those are great examples. But we need more of these. And we also need to make sure that data flows is central or core or very much part of international trade agreements. Is it today? No, it has to be. We need to accelerate the interoperability roadmap. We need to make sure that there is a permanent moratorium at the WTO on custom duties for electronic transmissions. We need to respect international industry standards, particularly with WTO rules, right? A lot of work, energy, investments done to create those standards. We should look to them. And finally, we should try to avoid, and I'll go as far to say remove, but definitely try to avoid data localization. I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Michel Combin, Numeum Executive Director. You will focus on digital skills and education for a more inclusive digital future. Please.
Thanks. I would like also to thank Anitec-Assinform for the organization. There's been a great work from your part on leading to that document and a lot of collaboration amongst our trade associations. So I guess I'm very, very proud to be a member of this group, and I'm very proud to be there in Rome to exchange with you all on all those issues that are at the core of our industry, but also at the core of the daily lives of the citizens around the world. So, and I guess I'm quite also happy to finish this roundtable with skills. I guess skills are at the core of the digital transformation. You can't transform without skills. You can't use digital services without skills. So there are 3 main points when you look at digital skills. First is the ability to use digital services or infrastructure. There are still too many people that can't just have the ability to access the internet or use digital services. So we, especially at for the G7 countries, we need to foster and help also other countries to really raise the level of digitalization skills for people so they can be part of that transformation. This transformation is going to happen anyway, anyhow. So we have to a duty to be sure that everyone is included and not excluded from this revolution. And this also is a question of generation. We need to really support the skills with our youngsters, and because the more we are teaching our youngsters, the more their ability will develop. The second point is having people to work for our industries, for our clients, for the government in helping us transform our economy and our society. For example, in France, we know that in 2022, 70,000 people enter the market, the IT market, for the service provider, for the end users, either private or public. That number is going to get to 130,000 people in 2030. So we need to train people. We need to look for people to enter and to help us make this transformation happen. That's a huge task because especially there is quantity issues, finding more people, finding more engineers, finding more technicians, but also we have to be more reactive. We have looked at the revolution of Gen AI that have a lot of questions around training people for that new revolution. And we still need too much time to, when there is a new technology arriving on the market, to train people. So if we need 3, 4, or 5 years to be able to train people to develop a new technology, then we won't be able to grasp that the impact and the full ability of the technology to transform our economy and society. So it's the second challenge we have together is to be able to train more people, to be able to have more people entering our industries, and to be more reactive to really grasp the arrival of new technology, blockchain, AI, quantum technologies. The last part is also to be able to retrain people. We know that, and Stella was addressing that point in her address earlier, is this is going to transform not only the pure IT people, but also people in industry, people in government services. They will have to be trained to really adopt those technologies, even though they are not pure technicians. And also, we sometimes we have the question on technology will destroy jobs. Technology will destroy manufacturing. No, technology will transform employment. Technology will transform jobs, and we have to be able to, let's say, support that transformation. Reassure people that they will be able to be trained and to adapt and to change their jobs. And for example, when I look at the numbers I've given earlier, that's out of the 70,000 people entering the IT market, 30,000 were people that were coming from other industries, from other services. So we have also the ability to welcome people from other industries because we need people and we need to reassure people and be able to train people. So 3 challenges for every country, for our transition, for our government. But if we don't deal with that skill issue, we will miss the biggest point because without any people, the digital transformation won't happen.
Thank you, Michel. Now it's time to react. Who wants to start? Matthew, Calise, something? Okay. For UK, let's start with Cameron Ballister.
Okay, thank you. I think, as everyone else has, it was remiss of me not to speak in the last session, but I'd like to thank both the organisers here, our Italian colleagues, and those in the Italian presidency, but also Julian and Tech UK and all other colleagues who set this in motion. I think it's been a really interesting and fruitful discussion so far. And we'd like to also thank everyone for the hard work that went into this declaration, this paper, which I think the UK, sorry, I'm trying to come close to the mic, which the UK does feel represents and builds on the achievements of the G7 presidency in Italy. I think I'll try not to repeat everything that people have said before me, which is difficult coming in sort of this order. But I have been struck by a few things that people have said around the table today. First of all, that tech is going to be the engine of our economies. And the important priorities that we've raised in this paper will go some way to ensuring that we can actually achieve the destination we want to as a G7, but also globally. I think we've reinforced today the importance of cooperation and partnerships in the G7, but above all, this paper, I think, goes some way to help give practical steps for governments and the private sector to work together. And what the paper set out, I think, is really important for that, because it is the private sector, I don't think we should forget, that has led all of these innovations that have brought this theme to our attention in recent weeks and months and years. And so it will be essential to ensure that the private sector is also leading from the forefront on things like regulation, on safeguarding, on ensuring that there are, interoperability, if we talked about before. I think for the G7 to grow and develop in these areas, we must also ensure that there is trust from our citizens. The UK hosted last year the AI Safety Summit, which was G7 inclusive, but also, much more a global initiative. And I think colleagues around the table have mentioned how data flows across borders, and so must therefore our principles that guide us in how we deal with that. I'm delighted that colleagues in Korea will, on the 20th of May, be hosting the next AI Safety Summit. And I think the achievements we made in Bletchley on those principles are really important for how these technologies are going to be guided in the future. A couple of other priorities I think important. Cybersecurity has been mentioned. I think that's essential. I'd like to commend the Italian presidency for their work on cybersecurity and bringing the G7 together. I think we must support that. Jobs, I would agree that it's a change. It's not necessarily an elimination. The UK has we've looked at this and have evaluated that there is a massive skills gap, as others have alluded to. And so we're putting billions of pounds into digital literacy, free courses for adults. I think we had here about 3.8 billion in the next 2 years to develop digital skills. So I think that's really important for all the reasons people have set out amongst small, medium-sized businesses too. Finally, I'd just like to say that the UK is also ensuring it's got its sort of legislative framework in line to support all of this important work. We've got the data bill, the digital market bill, and what we really want to ensure is that we're deterring monopolistic practices and ensuring that the free market can prosper when it comes to some of these emerging technologies, which we feel is crucial. Finally, quantum. It's not the sexiest of buzzwords yet, but it definitely should be. And we're delighted to see that the Italian presidency brought this forward as a component of the March ministerial. And I'd like to echo the words that many have said today on the importance that quantum technologies will provide for our economies and all of our societies in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. Someone else?
Thanks to some of our colleagues, I just wanted to emphasize a little bit on SMEs, small companies, not tech sectors, of course, but sectors like small industries, arts and crafts, tourism, agriculture transformation. These people will not go into AI transformation. If we're not able, if we could, we should develop together specific programs for them to provide financial and technical support, human capacity building, and you talked about it, to ensure security of infrastructures and system, and of course, risk assessment when transitioning for them. and always make sure that we invest more into data protection for these people, for these activities. Thank you.
Matthew Kalitz, Canada.
Okay, so I already gave comments kind of on the declaration itself that's been developed over these months, but just listening to a number of the interventions and what people have been speaking about, I want to touch on that word collaboration that a lot of people talked about. And so I come from the government side, but just that collaboration role between the private sector, government, civil society that many people mention, I think we really can't emphasize that enough. And just from my perspective on the government side, the private sector is going to go, they're innovating, developing, and going ahead. But we can have a role to support and accelerate that, making sure the infrastructure is available, implementing clear, predictable, responsible regulations that will not impede development, but will address some of the concerns that are out there over emerging technologies. We can use our procurement practices to, when we're looking at the adoption of new technologies, supporting innovators, smaller companies. There's a certain power in procurement on the government side. And just that also, many people have mentioned that skills issue and ensuring that we have the knowledge workers, both to support companies and economic development on the private sector side, but also to ensure that we have the expertise in government to actually understand and deal with these things, because that's it's a big challenge. It's not something that government has traditionally been strong at doing, but we need people who are at the cutting edge in terms of knowledge. And so just to put that more concretely, just want to put out a couple examples that I've seen coming out of our government in Canada. Then just a couple days ago, our government announced a new package of support for the AI industry, for example. And we're going to be augmenting a lot of existing programs that we have for small and medium-sized enterprises to ensure that they have the knowledge and skills and support to implement AI into their business models. Because a lot, larger companies have those resources, but smaller ones, they don't know what to do necessarily, and they can really accelerate their productivity and growth if they have the right support. So we're kind of adding on to existing support programs for small and medium-sized enterprises with a strong AI component. And another one is there's a big funding package that was announced to ensure that Canadian companies have access to compute in Canada that's reliable and secure, which can also be an issue for researchers, for small companies, etc. So we're going to put a large amount of money on the government side to ensuring that, not to choose specific companies, but to allow this infrastructure to be available to those who want to take advantage of it. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Someone else? Okay. We could consider the joint declaration that we have on our table, but also the contents of our discussion, a call to action for governments, entrepreneurs, and all people who care about our future, prosperity, and the quality of democracy. Much work remains, but we have just taken a significant step. Thank you for your attention and especially for your commitment. And now, Marco.
Grazie Mario, grazie ancora a tutti. È stato un onore per me e per noi essere host dell'attività e della realizzazione di un documento importante come quello che ci ha visto tutti impegnati nelle settimane scorse e nei mesi scorsi, e ci vedrà tutti impegnati nel far sì che questo documento diventi un pezzo concreto della politica dei nostri governi. E quindi io ringrazio tutte le associazioni, ringrazio tutti i rappresentanti del governo, perché è estremamente importante tradurre questa volontà, quello che abbiamo espresso, quello che abbiamo anche discusso stamattina, cioè la volontà di collaborare, di cooperare, di avere un partenariato forte fra il pubblico e il privato con una direzione chiara per far sì che queste policy diventino concretezza e poi contributo. Quindi il fatto che il nostro impegno sia un impegno concreto che vuole sicuramente continuare oltre la Joint Declaration, che è un primo passo poi da far sì che appunto fra un anno, quando saremo in Canada, potremo fare il visto, la spunta sulle cose realizzate veramente, perché da lì poi si partirà a scrivere il prossimo capitolo, consapevoli che è un binomio indissolubile quello fra il digitale, la trasformazione tecnologica, l'innovazione e l'industria, la società e le istituzioni. Un grazie, me lo consentite in chiusura, a tutto il team di lavoro Anitec-Assinform, perché insomma hanno fatto un grande contributo. Io nel ringraziare voi dedico a loro l'ultimo applauso di chiusura. Grazie.
Have a nice lunch here and a good day in Rome.